Heathcote Williams, actor, playwright, magician, poet, recluse. Recluse? I mean, why? A talented actor, a successful playwright, he should be out there doing the chat shows, but he isn't. Instead, he lives in a little cottage in Cornwall, and when people ask themselves round for tea, he says things like, "I'm sorry, but I've only got one cup," as I well know. So, the Heathcote Williams collection. Books, plays, films, they're all here. Well, at least I hope they are. It's been a real nightmare, I can tell you. Some of the stuff's pretty obscure. I'm still worried about a few of the dates. Now, of course, if the man just gave interviews, it would be so much easier, but less of a challenge. It all started 5 years ago, June 1988. The Philip K. Dick collection was almost complete. It all got a lot easier after he died. Anyway, subconsciously, I must have been looking for something else. I'd read somewhere that Jonathan Cape sold an epic poem about Wales to an American publisher for the record-breaking sum of $100,000, and I was intrigued, especially when I discovered that the author had no interest in money and didn't even have a bank account. I bought the book as soon as it came out, but it wasn't until a year later that I started to collect properly. Sacred Elephant. And what's the first thing you notice? Yep, same spines. Same spines, same typeface, same layout. A collector's dream, and I knew immediately that I had to have them all. 1990, Falling for a Dolphin. 1991, Autogeddon. And then, of course, there were the foreign editions.
It plummets, then rises again, circling you on the surface, fixing you with a look that seems calculated to incinerate all further resistance. It sidles down beneath your legs, parting them with its bottle nose, and slowly rises, deftly tuning itself to your center of gravity. As you find a handhold on its dorsal fin, its muscles tense, bends its backbone, levering its flukes up and down, and explodes into action, sculling and skimming across the water, rising and falling like a barrage balloon. 10, 15, 20 knots, you gasp for breath as you're scooped in and out of the water, trying to kneel, slipping, a rickety human outrigger, drawn through a tornado of foam, shouting ecstatic, childish smatterings, swept along in a ferment of physicality, then buried in the water, then surfacing, and gasping and choking again as the wind knocks the air back down your lungs, and breathing seems as hard as drinking water from a fire hydrant.
The poet laureate, Ted Hughes, said Whale Nation was brilliant, cunning, dramatic, and wonderfully moving, a steady accumulation of grandeur and dreadfulness. But of course, Heathcote Williams does have his critics.
As far as I'm concerned, the grandeur applies to the photographs, and the dreadfulness to the text. I mean, I know it looks a bit like poetry, but where's the rhythm, meter, cadence, assonance? No, Heathcote Williams doesn't write poetry. Well, it's shopping lists. Or best, captions for photographs. And how convenient that these expensively produced books are turned out by the dozen, when membership of organizations like Greenpeace has never been higher.
But the really interesting thing for the collector is this. Autogeddon was actually first published in 1982. Sacred Elephant in 1984, and Whale Nation in 1986. But the story really begins on Friday the 19th of December 1959. Heathcote Williams, a 16-year-old Eton schoolboy, is staging an open-air exhibition of his paintings. With the air of a professional, he informed me, I ran a bit short of money, so I decided to sell some of my paintings. They cost around 3 or 4 guineas each. Can I interest you at all, sir? Heathcote Williams' first name was in fact originally part of his second. He was born John Heathcote Williams in 1941, the son of a QC. He soared one barrel off the family name after being thrown out of Eton in the late 50s, the opening volley in a long battle against polite society. After being asked to leave Eton, he lived in a Franciscan monastery for a while, and then ended up at Oxford, where he studied law for 2 years. But he's always maintained that his real education was gained at Hyde Park Corner.
The time is now 7 o'clock. The place is Hyde Park, Marble Arch, Speaker's Corner, London, England.
1964, The Speakers. Heathcote Williams' first publication, a documentary novel based on the lives of 4 Hyde Park speakers. In order to ensure the authenticity of the dialogue, Heathcote lived with the speakers for 6 months.
Here you have an Irish communist attacking the Irish socialist. Here you have the Irish Republican Army attacking the Connolly Association. And I'm here on my own today to attack all bloody lot. I mean, I believe in nothing.
With the speakers, Heathcote Williams was firmly established, and in 1965 he began work on a new piece, The Local Stigmatic. Stigmatic, an obscure play by an English recluse, a story of 2 thugs who beat up an actor because he's famous. A play that's obsessed a major Hollywood star for over 20 years. A play that was turned into a film personally financed by Al Pacino. The Local Stigmatic has never been shown publicly, until now.
We've seen that bloody hand. Seen that bloody hand. Favoured by having trapped 3 vacant. Wouldn't make a difference. They were bloody vacant. We've seen that bastard dog.
Isn't that him? That one?
Who? Won't make a difference. They all fucking vacant. Who? What's the time?
One of those people you follow. There. No, see there? No, there. There. There he is. You see there?
The speakers had been critically applauded by a diverse range of people that included William Burroughs and Anthony Burgess, but perhaps most significantly by Harold Pinter. So, when the Travers Theatre wanted the other half of the double bill, Harold Pinter's new play, The Dwarfs, was teamed up with Stigmatic. After a brief run in London, Pinter passed the script on to an American director, David Wheeler. He gave it to a young actor, Al Pacino.
It seems to be about a few things, and envy would be one of them. About identity would be another. Fame is a part of it too, I guess. Our relationship, people who are not famous, their relationship to people who are famous, haves and have-nots, that kind of thing. I think he was sort of swimming in all that stuff at the time he wrote the play. I think he was also circling around this. And today, I think it's a pretty hot theme, the theme of the Local Stigmatic. I think it's had a kind of foreboding about it.
Excuse me?
I don't want to spend my life, ducking. That's not. Although you can avoid things, which I sort of try to do from time to time, but more or less I've had to adjust.
Do you mind at all being recognised by strangers?
Oh, no, it's just part of the old, Well, they usually get my name wrong, and then they get embarrassed and walk away. No, it doesn't take much out of you.
I expect a lot of them must come up to you, ask you for your autograph, then say it's for their small son, their niece, someone you never heard of, just to cover up, huh?
Yes.
Can I have your autograph?
No, it's funny you should...
It's all right.
It reminds me of the, the Jacobean plays. It has that kind of sardonic, black sort of humor to it, and yet it has that power.
How would you assess his physical condition and stature? In a few words, right? For guidance.
Well, I'll say about 6 feet. Protein stand, well covered. Fairly good working order, I should think.
Said you were very approachable, David? Kick him in the stomach, get him on the ground, put your handkerchief in his mouth, kick him again, we'll see what follows. Oh, that's it. Now, okay. Let's put it another way for you. It's the simplest thing in the world, once you grasp it. Now, you take Ray, for example. This girl he's shacked up with, Sharon, she thinks he's you. And when they're in bed, David, he thinks he's you, and she thinks she's being done by you. Well, it's not quite as simple as it. Keep it, Kim. Let me go. Keep it.
The problem with staging it and it happening live is that the immensity of the act sort of overshadows the words that are being said during this ritualistic beating. And I thought with a movie that we could avoid that by abstracting the beating somewhat so that the words could be more palatable.
The play is indeed extremely violent, but I think it's also a play of nausea at one's own romanticism too, and vulnerability and weakness in being in allowing oneself to be sucked in by film stars and heroes and politicians. In fact.
No, it's got nothing to do with resenting you. Nothing at all. It's just that it seems stupid you're not there with Sharon and Ray to defend yourself. I think he's ready now, Ray. Have his face done.
When I finally got the opportunity to meet Heathcote, it had been like, we had corresponded and I admired his work so much. Not just this play, other things he's done, AC/DC, and a few of his other plays, and his books, his poetry. So then seeing him was really kind of a thrill for me. And then I met him, showed him the picture, and after the film, he was sitting there. He said he thought it was. He thought that he had written this play 3 people ago.
All his work, I think, is deeply political, I think. I think it's informed not only by violent contempt, actually, for the way people are manipulated and for the status quo, the complacency of the status quo, but also by now, certainly more and more evidently in his later work, the work on whales and elephants and so on, and the automobile, compassion for the weak.
Well, I find him amusing and interesting, and I think he's brilliant. He's the kind of guy you like to the kind of person you like to be around and just hear him talk about things. His read on things interests me. Kind of anarchic and funny guy.
The trouble about fame is that when you're tarnished with it, it sticks on you and you can't get rid of the damn thing. In other words, Heathcote Williams has a certain fame, whether he wishes it or not.
Heathcote's next play was performed at the Royal Court, and it was very much a piece of its time. Like Stigmatic, it attacked the culture of fame, but this time he used the language of madness and psychedelia to ridicule the mass media. The climax of the play involved a grisly trepanning sequence that was performed live on stage.
Would give you a sensation in the brain, curiously, trotting through all this. For example, some of the guide Morris uses words, he knows the right words for everything. Like, for example, dimethoxyphenylethylamide. Yeah, I took all morning to learn that word. Dimethoxyphenylethylamide, the trace element found in the urine of every schizophrenic. To actually get this stuff into your mind, I mean, you've literally become someone else, you know, because you're... I mean, for the time that you're doing it, you seem to be equipped with far more knowledge than's healthy to own. Some people have called it ahead of its time. But I don't think its time ever came.
It was very difficult because we didn't understand it. We had to rehearse with a dictionary. In fact, with a huge, big, fat dictionary. And a lot of it we didn't understand. You'd find quite odd if you read the play now, because, well, there was a phrase in it at one point, male chauvinist pig, and this is 1970. None of us had heard such a thing before. We didn't know what a chauvinist was or how it could possibly apply in the sort of gender context, and we had to kind of work that out for ourselves.